46 and a half hours for complete, 180k, over 7,000 metre elevation, and running 13 valleys. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's called the 13 Valleys Ultra.
Madness, Matt.
Yeah.
And that's why I've got you on today to talk a little bit about what possessed you to do this. So first and foremost, why that?
I'm the kind of person where I always need something, to go push myself a bit. Started running in 2023. Did, as you can see by my t-shirt, Alpine Bears Run Club. Shout out to them. Yeah. The best at Vault Gym on a Wednesday. But so it just started as I wanted to get a bit fitter, as probably everyone does when they start running. And then so October 2023, I'd started doing a 5 and 10k here and there, and I was never a runner. I was always a bodybuilder, competed through and through and was doing all that. And then just something changed in me, and I was like, I need something a bit more. So ran a half marathon, enjoyed it, loved it. Booked a full marathon straight away after it. So this is in Manchester. So that was October 2023, the half, and then April 2024 was the full marathon. But I do this thing where I started booking things and fell out of love with running.
Right.
So I didn't end up training for any of them, and I was like, I've still got to do it. I've paid for it. I've said I'm going to do it, and I'm that kind of person where if I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. Much to annoyance of my missus, because I say I'm doing these stupid things. She's like, "Oh, what's he booking next?"
Yeah.
So did a marathon, and then after the marathon, I was like, "Oh, I loved it," because it was you got thousands of people shouting, "Yeah, come on," and all this. So I was like, "What's next?" So I booked an ultra marathon. Yeah. So I've done one ultra before. So I picked Glasgow to Edinburgh, which was 57 mile.
Yeah.
So I was like, sound, and I gave myself from April, and that was in October of 24, and I was like, that gives me enough time to train and actually do well at this one.
Yeah.
But did the exact same thing again. Went into an off season because I was like, I want to compete in bodybuilding again now. I don't want to run anymore.
Yeah.
Got as heavy as I possibly could. And then about 4 weeks out, I was like, I think I might need run here. So started doing 5 and 10Ks again. And I was like, what am I doing here? I've got to run for 90K. It worked out at. There was no elevation in that one though. It was just a straight. But what I didn't know it was all along the canal.
Wow.
So yeah, it was brutal. Freezing. It was freezing.
Well, that part of the world is quite cold, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So ran that. It took me 14 and a half hours.
Wow.
And then that was more of a mental game than anything. I was battered after that. So after that, I was like, I need something else. So again, but then I needed to find the balance. My struggle was because I'd competed in bodybuilding. I was like, I loved lifting weights, but I couldn't find a balance between lifting and running. So eventually I've now found that, which is what's got me to 13 Valleys. So the lad who runs, who is the leader of Alpine Bears, is a good mate of mine, Rob. He ran it last year, and my training partner, who I train with every day, he ran 7 valleys. So there's like 4 stages.
Yeah, I've seen that. There's a few increments, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's 7 valleys is the one down, which is 100k. It's still in the same place. It's still absolutely mental. When you say it to someone, you're like, "Why are you doing that, you idiot?" So yeah,
it's you thought you'd just do a few more.
Well, that's the thing. So I just I may as well double it. So it's literally double my last ultra. But this time is the elevation's the killer. It's 7,000 meters is something like 25,000 feet.
Yeah, when I looked into it, I was like, that is seriously impressive. And you mentioned there about bodybuilding and running, and notoriously not two things that you would, merge together. Yeah. So what, obviously you said there about competing in bodybuilding and doing that aspect of your life. Was that was the running, like you said, it just come from fitness, but was there something missing in the bodybuilding, like that darkness?
Yeah, I think so. With the whole thing with the bodybuilding was, so I've been natural and always have been natural. And the thing with the bodybuilding was I competed in an untested show, and I won that show, which was amazing, best feeling ever.
I can imagine.
But and then I got through to they call it it's like British Championships.
Yeah.
So got through to that, and then with that, it was like I was looking at who I was competing against, and I was like, I've no chance. These lads are assisted.
Yeah.
I could train for 10 years and I'm never going to be that big. So I didn't end up doing it. And then the more I started training with bodybuilding is I was like, I'm either all in or I'm not.
Yeah.
And, eating 6 meals a day, training 6 days a week and doing steps and not missing anything, like going out with family, for example. I'm like, I'm trying to be a competitive bodybuilder here. And I'm seeing people that are that way inclined, like they will not miss a meal. And that's the people that win. And I just fell out of love with the idea of being so strict to the point where And I thought, I'm never going to make a living from bodybuilding.
No.
It's taking over my life. So I was like, but I need something else to be, to push myself
Fill that
towards.
void.
Yeah, fill that void, yeah. So yeah, that's where I found running. And but again, my just characteristic is to go from one extreme to another.
It's interesting you mentioned about the sacrifice there, and the what's not seen by the everyday person. We live in a world of like social media and almost instant gratification. So when they see these pictures that you put on, ripped, looking great in that, you probably just imagine that comes easy, and they probably think the same. When you put that photo on you when you finish this 13 valleys, they'll be like, nah, it probably comes easy, but they don't understand the sacrifice of that. And that is sort of why I wanted to get you on today. Is if people are thinking about donating or checking you out on what you're doing, it's quite hard sometimes to perceive the sacrifice that goes into these
definitely.
massive challenges. So what was that, starting with the bodybuilding, what was that like relationship wise? Because obviously you've got a family, you've got friends, things like that. How did you navigate that? And did you find any sort of pushback from people originally?
Yeah, it was hard at the beginning. So at the time, I'm trying to think when it was. So it was 6 years ago now. It was 2019. So I'd been with my missus for 2 years. And then all of a sudden I was telling her I was doing a bodybuilding competition, which that was literally a meal. That was a meal plan that I followed for 14 weeks. Didn't miss a meal, didn't miss a session, and didn't miss anything. I was on it. At the time I didn't have kids.
Which helps, I imagine.
Yeah, it does help because it's a lot less stressful. But at the time it was like, there was social events happening. So I competed in March. So it was literally from January the 1st until the 31st of March was my competition. So I kind of picked that time on purpose because obviously you get everyone with the New Year's resolutions and things like that. So I was like, it's quieting down a bit anyway. But then I've got family birthday parties that I'm going to. It was my missus's brother's 21st, and 18th. It'd have been 18th, and I was sat in his party with a Tupperware of steak and rice, and everyone else is having like buffet food.
Fucking getting glared, I imagine.
Literally, they were like staring at me like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm entering a bodybuilding competition." And it was like, all right, cool. Is that where you get naked and get all, tanned up? And I'm like, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Which I didn't actually do that one. I did men's physique for anyone that knows, which is like board shorts.
Board shorts, yeah.
Just because I had tiny legs. That was the issue. Yeah, so I forgot where I was going with this now. So the sacrifices, was the social aspect was the hardest, especially because I was still quite young as well. I was only 22, 23 at the time. Yeah, I was 23. So that was the sacrifice. And then, that's what I wasn't willing to do again this time. So I did actually think before I booked 13 valleys, and as I said before about the doing the last ultra as heavy as I'd ever been, I had in my head, I'm going to give this one more go whilst I've got kids to show that I can do a bodybuilding competition whilst I've got kids.
Yeah.
But then I started doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it to prove it to everybody else and not not to show to myself. And
did it become an extrinsic thing rather than an intrinsic?
Yeah, literally, yeah. So I was doing it and I'm thinking, I'm going to sacrifice watching my kids grow up for the next 6 to 12 months of not missing a session and not missing a meal, all for a plastic trophy. That's if I win. When, or maybe 1,000 followers on Instagram.
For people's validation.
Yeah, for external validation.
Anything. Yeah.
I don't need it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was it was almost like a switch had flipped and I was like, I'm not interested anymore. And that's where, but at the same time, I still wanted to, enjoy what I do.
Yeah, because I've seen the reel you put on, about like proving that being a dad, you can still, be in good shape and do these things.
Yeah.
And I think that is a massive message and a great message that you shared. And, I can only imagine how difficult it is with kids. I don't have kids, so I have no concepts. I'm not going to try and relate when I have no prior experience. But, you've got a busy job as well with what you do. So it is super impressive. So what does a day in the life look like for a 13 valleys ultra?
At the moment, so the way I train is I do 3 days a week weights, and then I'll do 4, maybe 5 runs.
Yeah,
which works out sometimes it's a 2 a day. So Wednesdays is usually my 2 a day, which I have a very supportive partner in the fact that we've got 2 kids. We've got a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. So it is hard, and I work full time, 40 hours a week. So a typical day for me. But one thing I did is, and this is my advice for anyone who's looking to who's got kids or has things where they have to be certain places at certain times. My thing was get up earlier, and it sounds so simple, and it is hard. Because no one likes to get up early. Everyone loves lying. But it's literally changed my life. So every day now I'm up at 4:45 and then I'm in the gym for 5:30 when it opens, and then straight to work if I'm in work. So that'll be a typical thing. So I'll work like an 8 till 6. So I'm in the gym for 5:30, train probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that'll either be a weight session or a run, and then from there straight into work. Take all meals with me. Be prepared, and that's another thing. Is preparation the night before is massive, because I've always noticed I'll do it in the morning. Something happens.
And it never happens.
And you never end up prepping, or you end up, you're having to go and spend money buying something that
And when you eat healthy in that regard, because I do it myself, like I prep, and then when I forget, if you go and try and eat relatively good and buy it like from the shop, it's a fucking fortune.
Mate,
get a meal deal for $3.50.
Yeah.
But if you want to make like a chicken salad or something like that, you're gonna be spending like $8-9 quid.
Yeah, if you want the decent, the decent one, and then you, like you say, you add it all up, and you're spending £40 a week on food that you don't need to. That
on top of what you're already spending, food shop, what's already expensive.
Yeah, and times are hard, lads.
It's not an easy time, is it?
No. So that was, and then get home from there, and then because my missus trains as well, she's like, so she's like 12 weeks postpartum, so she's just started getting back into training as well. So as much as I can while I do, so I'll come in and I'll say, right, I'll have the kids now. You go to the gym, and then we've got very good at putting the kids to bed at times. So like 7 o'clock they go off to bed. Mrs. will get in from training, and then so like today, for example, I've got a double day today, so she'll get in tonight at about 7:45, and then I'll go and run. So stupid, I'm going to run a half marathon at 7:45 tonight. It'll probably take me about 2 hours, and so it'll take me till like 10 o'clock. Yeah. But then the difference is what a lot of people do is they say, I don't have time to do it, but what they don't realise is they're watching 3-4 hours of Netflix a night.
I literally put something on Instagram the other day. It was like, if you dedicated just half an hour
that's all
a day,
yeah.
fucking the time it amounts up to, even if it's just one thing. And then if you double that with 60, and then people go, I don't have time.
Yeah.
But if you go on your screen usage on your phone, I'm not saying this, you're a bad person if you do this, but, if you actually go and look at like how much you're scrolling through things like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you'll get a pretty scary wake-up call. Yeah, and even me, someone who's like conscious of that. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, fucking hell, what have I done here?
Yeah, I do that. I'll tell you what.
Should we look? Let's have a look. I can't. Mine's on there.
Right, I'll have a look at mine. And I'm terrible for it, because my missus always has a go at me for my screen time. So like mine's, it's terrible. But this is... A lot of mine to be fair, is YouTube, because I watch a lot of YouTube on my phone.
That's a lot of mine.
Or if I'm at work, I'll put music on, or YouTube, whatever. But mine's 6 hours and 29 minutes daily average, which is stupidly high, considering I've got kids as well. Which I think that's one thing that I want to improve myself is get away from my phone. But then it's hard, because I'm like, with Instagram, TikTok, YouTube channel, you try and interact or whatever, and then you end up on your phone for 4 hours.
Yeah, you end up doing a rabbit hole, don't you? If you get an extra 1,000 followers on your page, or more engagement and stuff like that, and you're like, fucking hell, here I am again.
Yeah.
But it's one of them, innit? It's that balance, isn't it? And, probably 4 hours of that, you're getting something productive and something worth value within it. But it's them extra 2 in it, and it's learning how to separate the wheat from the chaff sometimes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Sort of finite and make that process a lot more refined. You mentioned there about getting up early, which I completely agree. I was terrible. I was literally like, hated the idea of it. But I always had this thing, when I was younger, where I felt like I was missing out. So I'd just stay up all night and think that like, no one's doing anything. Yeah. Like, everyone's in bed. Yeah. They're not dickheads like me. But like, I'm up till 2-3 in the morning, and then can't get up early. And then I find that I'm missing most of the things. So like sleep, and a sleep routine was massive. But when I read the 5 a.m. Club, that was like the ultimate goal horse mover for me. Have you read that?
No, is it good?
Oh, you'd love it. Yeah, it's Robin Schwarmer. I love Robin Schwarmer.
All right, I'll get it. Absolute... I've just got Audible back as well, so I'll go on there. Good. Like
it's written in a really weird way, but like you'll get a lot from it, and it'll sort of ingrain why you're doing what you're doing and getting up early.
I used to hate it as well. I was literally the worst.
It's still hard now.
Yeah, it is. It's not easy, but I think you've got to have that intrinsic thing of, I'm doing this for a reason. Yeah. So like, for example, if I don't get up, then that has a massive impact on like my kids and my missus, because I've always said this, I'm such a better dad when I've had my time. Yeah. So, because I'll get home, like, so this morning, I've trained this morning, and I was up I was back before anyone was even awake. Yeah. So, and I'm done, and I feel like I'm such a better person when I've had my me time kind of thing of of doing what
'Cause
I
you've
need to do.
focused on yourself, and now you've got the capacity to give more of yourself
Yeah.
away. I mean, we've done stuff with groups and things like that, like men's groups, and obviously dads have come to it and things like that. And that's a massive thing. Like when we've set goals and come away from it, we've said that, like, you know, focus on just giving you some time. It's not a selfish thing to do. If anything, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's going to make you a better person. And a lot of people do that. You see it with work, don't you, as well? People get consumed by the work. They're on their emails when they get home.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm this guru who doesn't do anything like that, but I know that if I step away from that and do something that I care about, that I'm ultimately a better person.
That's one thing that I've got. Well, I am good at is I'll leave work at work.
Yeah.
It's not coming on me, especially doing the job that I do. Is as soon as that laptop turns off, I switch off.
Yeah.
Which I struggled with in the first few years of doing my job. And I was like, I was taking things on with me, and I'm like, it's not healthy.
No.
But I've got away from that now, which is good.
And I think you mentioned there about, it's still hard, it's still difficult getting up. I know we've gone off topic, but I like going down a rabbit hole. Where do you see for me, I see sort of motivation and discipline as a seesaw, and they sort of go between one another.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's times where you're super motivated to get up and run an half marathon, after the kids have been up crying all night, or there's times where you couldn't think of anything worse. And what do you rely on more, or do you sort of use them together?
I'd say I now rely on discipline more, because I've been doing it so long now. It's just ingrained in me that I know the positives of getting up early outweigh the negatives for me now. So because I've got that time to myself, I know what kind of person I am if I don't get up early and don't do what, and I start to become, my temper's a bit shorter with the kids, and I'm like snappier at them, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing that, but it's because I've not had that time to myself. So I'd say more. I think it starts as motivation, which I think is the case for a lot of people. Not everyone wakes up and goes, I'm going to run at 5 o'clock in the morning. But then you see someone else do it, and that's what I'm trying to show with what I'm putting out there. Is I always say, if I can do it when I've got a full-time job and 2 kids, then there's no reason. I'm not special. I'm not a gifted person in any form. I just work my ass off.
Yeah,
and I show that if I can do it, then there's no reason that nobody else can do it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that you have to do it, and you're not, but like you said before, you're not a bad person if you don't get up at 5 a.m. It's not for everybody.
No,
but just getting out there, doing something.
It's getting that point across that it's possible.
Yeah,
even when you think it might not be, and that's obviously a big reason why I wanted to get you on. The idea is to speak to people like yourself and everyday people who do class things, like the ordinary things, and I think what you're doing is class, and I think it does promote that message, which we don't see a lot of. We don't see a lot of people sort of showing the 5 a.m. get-ups and the shittier times. We just see the fitness is the worst one for it.
Yeah,
fitness social media is sort of horrible.
I think one thing that we see a lot of at the moment is you've got like a certain group of people where they'll be like, oh, I'm running a marathon in whatever, or I'm going doing an ultra marathon or anything. But then the full-time athletes, and they complain about how hard it is. And don't get me wrong, they've worked hard to get there.
They've earned that spot.
Yeah, they've earned it. But there's no one showing that, and it's like, I think that's what people see is going, well, yeah, you should be doing that because you're a full-time athlete, or you've got nothing else to worry about, which they do, but they don't show it.
No,
these people are running businesses, or they've got. And not saying that you need to show your whole life on social media, because you don't show it. I don't show everything, but I don't also just show the good bits.
Yeah, you're keeping up with the Joneses side of it, and I would love it to be some sort of like stipulation of social media that you have to at least show one shit day out of all the 100,000 brilliant ones. You know what I mean? And, but that's why I really respect and like what you do, because like with YouTube and stuff like that, you're vlogging, you're doing that, and you're sort of in the midst, and you're showing it's doable, it's possible with all these things. And we sort of briefly touched on it before. You mentioned your missus is super supportive, but I wanted to ask how sort of the extreme sports with bodybuilding, they're not like extreme, but they're extreme sacrifice. I'd say, ultra is extreme. I'll definitely say that. But how did that, now you're in the midst of it, you probably went into these things with a certain group of friends and a certain group of people that had a certain worldview and different things.
Yeah.
How did that affect your sort of development within your relationships? Did a lot of them people stay? Did a lot of them people go? Did you find that you sort of grew into a different person?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit different than most because, like you said, people have those friendship groups. Whereas even growing up, obviously we went to the same school, and we had a very similar set of group of friends.
Yeah, yeah.
But then afterwards, once it got into that, I keep myself to myself. Don't sounds a bit sad, but don't actually have many mates.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's for a good reason. I have a very, very small circle, and I keep that because I believe it impacts you massively. The people that you hang around with, there's a saying where they say, if you show me the 5 people that you hang around with, I'll show you your future.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so true because, so like, for example, Matt, who I go to the gym with every day, he's like 23. He's probably the most switched on 23-year-old I've ever met in my life. And he's like the David Goggins of Ormskirts. he's a legend. But he's like, he's again one of my best mates. And I've got a close relationship with my brother, again, does bodybuilding. And then I've got 2 friends, they're both professional athletes. So I'm surrounded by that, that mindset.
That standard.
And I'm trying to hold myself to that standard as well. So yeah, I think it's hard when you do, you get invited out to these things or you miss parties but I just try and I see it as I chose to do them things, so I'll make it work myself. So if I do get invited, like I've got a stag do this weekend coming up, and it's my best mates who we both know, Greg. So, but just because I've got this run doesn't mean I'm not going to go. I'm just going to make it work for me. I'm still going to be there, still going to enjoy myself, but I'm just going to make it work the way that I make it work. Probably end up going on a run the day after, which is just stupid in itself. But I've got my own goals that I want to pursue, and I've got my own things that I need to do. So I'm just very aware of what effect I have on people.
Not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, is it, when it comes to stuff like that?
No.
It's like, oh, well, I've done this now, so fuck it. I may as well just, not do it and completely fall off.
Yeah. So I try and, again, that discipline of, I stay disciplined when I need to be. That's the thing. If I'm saying I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. So it's happening whether anyone likes it or not.
Yeah.
Much to.
So speaking about anyone liking it, what about when you don't like it? What is like? What's the biggest challenge that you find? Is it mentally? Is it physically? Is it sort of like because you mentioned there ultra is I imagine it's much more of a mind game.
Yeah,
obviously
definitely.
your body needs to be involved, but there's a point where I imagine your body just starts screaming, "Fucking stop whatever you're doing to me now!" And you have to clicking and go into that Goggins mentality. People who are listening to podcasts can be like, "Fucking like." I always say like some people are 1%ers. And I think like it's dangerous to always hold yourself to them 1%ers. I think you've got to realise people like Goggins are fucking supernatural. And
they are.
You've got to have that perception. I don't think everyone can be Goggins, but everyone can have an aspect of Goggins in their life.
Yeah.
But what is it harder? Is it the body or is it the mind?
The mind. 100% is the mind. Getting up and going to the gym to train weights is 100% easier than getting up and going for a run, especially when it's cold.
Yeah,
it's the last thing you want to be doing.
Shortness of breath, I imagine, is horrendous.
Yeah, it's hard because the majority of my runs at the moment are easy runs, so I'm not breaking any speed records, or I'm not killing myself on the runs. But running on your feet for at least 2 hours is, it's hard work. No matter how fast or slow you're going, it's hard work walking for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say the mental side of the running is what I struggle with the most because it absolutely kills you. Like, so my volume this week is going to be 100k. I will have run this week, and that's gone up from I think it was about. So last week I was on a deload week, and then the week before it was at about 70, but that included a marathon in the lakes. So it's different because elevation affects you massively.
Yeah.
In terms of running, because obviously running upwards is harder than running on a flat. So we did a marathon. Well, we did 40k in the Lake District, which was like, I think it was 1,800 meters elevation, like 5,000 feet, but 7.5 hours it was on your feet. And I'd say 6.5 of that you're running.
Yeah.
So it's hard work, but I don't know. I just get a buzz off it. I just get this weird runner's highs. It's a thing.
It is a thing. I mean, I run, but like literally 5 to 10Ks. But even when you sort of when you hit it, once you get past that first 2-3K for me,
Yeah.
and you sort of like your body actually stops panicking, stops freaking out. Mine does anyway. And like once it gets level and it knows what it's doing,
Yeah.
it's class.
Yeah.
It is meditative. You're sort of in that zone, and then when you can push back and go forward, and something interesting you mentioned there, because I think running, I think people just assume, I'm not speaking on behalf of people here, but I always think that people just assume that running is just about speed and distance, how fast you can go. But with what you're doing, a lot of it's like zone 2. It's just steady plodding in it. A lot, well, not steady plodding, but
No,
like
it is.
a lot of it's
steady,
building that pace. So people don't particularly understand that. So could you explain a bit about that light, steady work that you've been doing?
And this is one thing I struggled with at start. So when I started running, I was like, I want to run a 5K. I think
I want to beat my PB every time.
Yeah, and that's what everyone starts with. So I was going all out running 5K after 5K after 5K, and I was like, I'm not getting any faster here, but my legs are killing me. So zone 2 is building an aerobic base, which is running at an easy pace. So the way I do it is 180 minus my heart rate, minus my age, gives me my zone 2 heart rate. So for me, it's 152. So I'll try and run below that. Conversational pace, they call it.
Yeah.
Builds an aerobic base. And eventually, to start that way, I think to start in a zone 2 is hard because you end up walking a lot because you're not fit enough to run for 5K constantly and keep your heart rate that low because it's such a difference to you. You're like, oh shit, what's happening to my body here?
You're in zone 4 all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I found when I first started doing it. I'm literally not even doing anything. I'm in fucking zone 4.
Yeah. So I think to start, a run walk's a very, a very good idea. Run 3 minutes, walk a minute, run 3 minutes, walk a minute, or however you do it best. But I needed to build that. And I still am because because I've not been consistent with my running up until recently. I've never had that base. So that's the massive part of it is running that zone 2. But the problem with that then comes is every time you go on a run then, especially for weeks like this, getting up to 100K a week, every time it's at least 2 hours because you're not running that fast. So for me, for example, I run at probably 6 minutes per K comfortably, and I could probably do that for 10 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So a half marathon that I've got to do today will take me 2 hours, and I know that. And the problem with that is you know that you're going to be out there for 2 hours. It's not like a gym session where you go, I've only got to do 3 sets of 10 or whatever you train. That you know you're going to be out for 2 hours and you go, can I be arsed doing this? I'm going to be away for 2 hours. And then you've got to plan it because you've got 2 kids at home and a missus that needs you there. So that's why I've got to wait till the kids go to bed. But then by that time, it's 10 o'clock by the time you're getting home. And, it is hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to, the mind and the body, when you're in them, you've been out for 2 hours and you're still thinking, I've got a bit more for go here, and the body's giving in and the mind's starting to like buckle a little bit.
Yeah.
What is it? What brings you back? Is there anything do you have, or is it just turning it off and ignoring it?
Yeah, so I think I've got an overarching thing so my overarching theme is the charity that I'm doing it for. So I always think back to that, like, what's my reason that I'm doing this race? And one, it's to raise money for that charity. 2, it's to prove that I can, if someone tells me or says, can you do this? I'm going to say, yeah, no matter what it is, even if it's something as stupid as a 120-mile race. I can do it. I'll go and do it. I think, I always think to myself, again, training partner, because he's the way he is, I'm thinking, well, if he was with me now, or if I was with him and we both said we wanted to quit, we're the kind of people that would be like, no, you fucking not.
Yeah.
And we push each other to that level of, we've said we're doing something, so we're going to do it.
You have a standard.
Yeah. And I want to keep that standard. And it's not just to prove to myself that I can do it. Obviously, I've got 2 kids when they're growing up.
Yeah.
I want to show them that, by working your ass off, you can get whatever you want. And that's what I try and, even they're too young to even understand anything yet because they're under 3.
But it sets that foundation, doesn't it, for make sure that there's an overarching, but like when they grow up and they look back and think, fucking hell.
Yeah, exactly. Look back and go, my dad was a savage.
Fucking gangster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I want to be. And then I want my kids to grow up. Not that they have to, if they don't want to be, but I want to give them that option of, well, if you want to be the baddest person in the room, you can be.
Yeah. And there's
no reason not to.
Not a scary thing, but it's a completely different mindset than what a lot of people get.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, raising savages from the
and if you
go.
ask my missus, she'd be like, oh, they don't have to be savages. Whereas I'm like, yeah.
Got that little bit. Just that.
I'm the dad at sports day that's like, you better win everything.
Yeah.
But that's just because I was so
You've been
competitive.
tapering off the week before.
So competitive growing up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
oh,
Yeah.
I forget about that.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry about that. So when you was talking then, you mentioned about the charity that you're doing it for. We should have probably gotten over that sooner, but we got down a rabbit hole. Do you want to go a bit into
so
that?
I'm doing it. There's a charity called Elsie's Story. So for anyone that doesn't know, the incident that happened in Southport was, it was terrible. It was one of the young girls that sadly lost her life during that. Now through my work, I've got friends that are, friends with their family, and they started this charity it's basically about carrying on Elsie's story and keeping her smile alive throughout these times. And they do things in local community in Southport and all over. So it was like, if I'm going to do it, I want to do it for a charity that, actually means something to me, and has got a story behind it. So yeah, just chose to do that. So I got in contact with them, and yeah.
It's class. And it's a great cause. I think being local to the incident and that, it was harrowing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sort of that something like this a positive can come out of it, the charity and things like that. I think that's a really powerful and positive thing. So yeah, it's an amazing cause, and I'll put all that information obviously down below in the description so people can check it out. So, you've got that as well, motivation, you're doing this, you're getting out, already put all this weight on your shoulders of sort of the accountability of the charity, the workload, the family, the friends. Then you threw in a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I did, yeah. I know, I told you, it's just part of this mad brain of mine, just firing at 100 miles an hour all the time.
Fully resonate with it. It just feels like the more plates you have spinning, the better it feels. Yeah. But also, it doesn't. It's almost a paradox.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah. Like if you've not got enough spinning, you feel like shit.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
But you've got too much spinning, you feel like shit. So it's finding the right amount of plates, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, the YouTube. I mean, I know from sort of this,
how annoying it can be.
Annoying, almost full-time job.
Yeah.
When you don't have a fucking, I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing.
It's hard.
And something happens, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to have to release this now. So
yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
How? Obviously, we did touch on it a little bit before why you did it and things like that. But how's that journey been? How did it feel for sort of expose yourself?
Yeah, it was scary at first. So it's so weirdly, I started a YouTube channel with Mrs. Right 2 years ago, and we just did these stupid videos. But I grew up watching fitness YouTubers, and I loved the idea of, not filming myself like, oh, look how good I am, but just putting myself out there because of the way I am. I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? So then, and I've said it for years, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and then started a different Instagram than my personal Instagram, and I was like, I'll just start posting, little bits of fitness content and whatever on there. And then I was like, but I love capturing that moment, and I love looking back at memories of what we did. And you scroll through your camera and you got 8 years ago, and you go, oh no way, do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it's because you took a picture of it at the time, or you had that video, and without that, you've forgot it. Yeah, because so much happens in our lives these days. So then I was like, right, I'll start a YouTube channel. So I just thought, the way I've been structuring it, and the way I'm going to continue to structure it, is they're not flashy edited videos. It's literally very real and raw.
It's raw, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to put across. Is I'm just trying to put across me as a person and my family. Show what type of person I am, but without all the bravado of like really good editing, because I can do it, and I know how to do it, but I just don't feel like it's me. Like at the moment, I don't find it interesting to watch on my side of things. So if I watch a YouTuber now and he goes in the gym and he shows you his 3x10 on bench press, and no one's asked anymore. Everybody knows. Well, unless you don't. I'm saying that, but that's because I've done it for years and years. Everybody knows how to bench press and what to train and all this. So I was just like, there's nothing out there where it shows a normal person how again they do. They've got kids, they've got a job, they've got this, that going on, but they still manage to train, or they still manage to do this, and just be a bit raw with it. And so there's 2 videos out currently. Yeah. But I enjoy doing it. And then, you learn things here and there. You go, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
And then, but then what you start doing is you start seeing everything in camera angles. You know, so you'd be like, I'll be watching a film and I'll be going, oh yeah, he's filming from like underneath him there, forget that light. And then I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? Because I'm thinking in my head, and that's why sometimes I'd have shut off. But I enjoy doing it.
Do you think it's sometimes a curse to strive for constant improvement?
Good question. Yeah, no. I think because of the people that it impacts around you, but no, not because of the way I feel about it. Because if I don't constantly improve, I lose my head. I've always got to be like doing something or getting better at something or learning something. Whereas, like, as I said before, that I decide that I'm doing something and it kind of like shuts a bit of everything else down.
Yeah, as a domino effect.
Yeah, not massively, because I try not to do that. Because again, I'm very self-aware of, you know, if I do this, it's probably going to have an impact. Like, I'm not going to go run for a week. Like, I'd love to do Land's End to John O'Groats, but it's 2 weeks. I'm not going to go away from my missus and kids for 2 weeks because I'm not that way. But I know a day here and there, and I just make sure that it works. But I think it can be to surrounding people, but not to me.
I think as you get older, because I agree with everything you've just said there. But I think when I was younger and I didn't have the ability to reflect, or not saying I'm perfect at it, but I'm in a much better position now where I can reflect and almost be mindful of my decisions.
Yeah.
But years ago, I probably wasn't, and that was when it had more of a toll and more of a negative effect on me and the people around me, because I couldn't, almost like you said there, you know, you're not going to do that because you can step away, sort of almost come out of your body and be like, this is actually detrimental if I do this, but there's alternatives where I can do it, but not fuck everything else up.
Yeah.
As opposed to probably 10 years ago, I'd have been like, let's just fucking...
Yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah, and then I'd absolutely crash, and fall out of love with everything, and then just fucking plummet. And that has been me up until very recently, just like really on, really off, really on, really off. And now, you know, it's about finding that middle ground, isn't it? And that's where I love Goggins, Kamens, them sort of people. You know, like you look at them and you think, fuck. How is that wired, and how does it do that? And you do try, and I definitely do try and sort of harness that, but I'm just not built that way. Do you know, to be like absolutely sacrifice
I think part
everything.
of that has been very Americanized though as well.
Yeah,
I think it's a completely different culture out there. You don't find many British people that are actually like
Ross Edgley, don't you?
Yeah,
but even his personality is completely different to Goggins.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Because you look at Ross Edgley and you go, he's such a nice fella.
Yeah.
And then he comes out with these swimming 1,000 miles around Iceland, and it's like
Fergus Crawley.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm guessing we watched and listened to the exact same people.
That's dead soft spoken. Really comes across really well.
And I think that's good because they're normal blokes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're not on this pedestal.
Almost a counter grind culture. Like not anti grind because of the grind, but like I feel like you go on TikTok and you're seeing fucking reels like Trent Twins and Goggins and everything, and it's just perceiving this unrealistic image to younger people. Yeah. But like, you know, I always think that if I didn't absolutely train like a dickhead when I was younger, would I have all these injuries that I have now? Would like my shoulders hurt and my ankles hurt? Yeah. But just because I thought this is the way to train. Obviously now we're in a much different position, but I always find it's interesting if you have the right content, which we've just mentioned about there. How lucky are some of these young people coming into fitness and stuff like that? You know, you people like, I know Sam Sulek's on gear, but like you watch his videos and his content, and he's not an arsehole about it. He's well spoken.
He's just honest and open, and he's not like eating chicken and rice and 6 times a day. And you can. What I always say, you can be very successful, and you can become very good at what you do, but still live a normal life. Yeah, you don't have to be 100% on it all the time. Professional athletes aren't. No, and I can tell you that from friends that are
knowing a few.
Knowing a few. You know, they have a drink every now and again.
I know a few rugby players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, another mate of mine, professional rugby player in Super League. Yeah, has a drink with his mates on a weekend, or eats out with his missus, or you know, obviously his goal's not a body composition; it's a performance thing. Yeah, but I think there is a fine balance between being too strict. I think if it becomes past the point of enjoyment,
Yeah,
I think it changes.
100%. And I think that's where, it's easier said than done, but it's the beauty of moderation in it. And you can have that like that tilting scale to being a fucking savage.
Yeah,
But like you can still find enjoyment in things.
Yeah.
I think in society we're all, like I said, we're all or nothing for everything, rather than being like, well, I'm all or nothing for this, and then there's a little bit of room for different things.
Yeah,
like that.
I always try and be a savage when I'm training.
Yeah,
and then switch off when I'm not.
Mm.
So like go to the gym or go for a run or whatever. Be a savage when you're doing it, but then as soon as I get home and be a dad, I'm completely different. Like try and switch off or try and be present.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a great release because I do similar.
Yeah.
And I think if, like I said, if you didn't do that, you went to the gym, you just half-assed it and got through, which is fine. Some sessions I like that.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, if you're cutting and you're trying to do big numbers, you're not gonna feel great, are you? But like, if I release that there, it's gone out of me. Then it's not gonna, like you said, it's not gonna come out later on when someone does something at work that pissed me off. Which is often, sorry work. But then like you've got these things like I always say it's like a pressure cooker. And like you don't want to go in when that pressure gauge is in red.
Yeah.
And when I go to the gym and when I read and when I do this, and when I do different things, it brings that
you back
pressure down. So you've got to find them things. And a lot of people do stuff for the wrong reasons. They do stuff for, again, that extrinsic, validation or motivation.
Yeah.
But when really like you've got to sort of have an aspect of what's doing good in here without getting too humble at too philosophical about it.
My thing is, and again, not getting philosophical, but I love life in general. So like, certain people like they'll need something to aim towards, which is great. But then I find like the joy in everything, if that makes sense, like all the little things. So like, for example, Sunday, I'm going for a 4-hour run or whatever. And I'm buzzing about that, and it's only 2 days away. And then on Sunday, I'll find something else that I can't wait for. And I've constantly got them. It's the little wins, the day-to-day wins that I add up that make me, buzz. Rather than, although I'm aiming for this big goal of this ultra marathon, everything else that builds up to it, I enjoy the journey more than the actual thing of doing it, because I'm like the video that released last week. It was me and 4 of my mates having a laugh, taking the piss out of each other, running around the Lake District, and it was hilarious and it was so fun, and I'll remember that now, and that's another win. And I'm like, right, when's the next one, or when's the next thing that I'm doing? So I think that helps massively with like the constant thing of motivation. Then just have something to look forward to, and it doesn't have to be, you're going on holiday, or you've got this flashy car, or it can be a little thing like you're going to enjoy your tea tonight because you're having a steak, or something very small.
I got a Ninja Creamy, mate, and all that gets me through is thinking of this ice cream that I'm having when I get
exactly. And something as little as that is a massive thing to you. It might not mean much to somebody else, and everything's different. Like my thing I love is when I get home and there's no one up, I can have a coffee, and it's just simple. It's something as simple as that. So sad, but it's like just have a coffee and then everything happens.
But why is it sad? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
why
you think it's sad. Yeah, because that's the thing. But
people people would tell you it's better for post 40-year Rolex at 7 in the morning than sit and have 10 minutes of just being yourself with a coffee, and that's fucking what people need for here. Do you know what I mean? That these small reflections on gratitude of just how simple is that? But I always say when you speak to people that and I do it. You sometimes feel shit. Sometimes you feel like fucking hell, this is terrible. Fucking just knock it on the head, do that. But someone would probably kill of your life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just one facet of it, And I think gratitude for me has been a massive shift in my mental health, the way that I can sort of navigate things. I think having just some time, don't need to write it down, you need to do anything, but like you said though, just think back and think, fucking hell.
Yeah.
That was decent. That.
Yeah. I think with the line of work that I'm in, I come home and I think, I'm so, I've seen people at the lowest, and I've seen people in the worst of times that they can possibly be in. And I come home and I think, what, I'm so lucky. And then something as little as someone pissing you off at home stresses you out, and you're back to that, and it's constant dips. But then you try not to be. Like, I did it the other day. I was reversing out my drive, and I looked up, and I'd been stressed about just stupid things like decorating or something, something dead simple.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, it's doing me head in this, or work's doing me head in, or whatever. Reverse off my driving, and I look up and I go, you know what, me 2 kids and my missus are asleep in the safe. We're all healthy, and I've got my house. I'm not actually doing that bad, but because of that constant improvement that we talked about, I constantly want to improve on what I'm doing, which again, that can be the detrimental side of things.
And that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
You can sort of you can be so focused on looking forward that sometimes you don't take the time to stop and think about the here and now.
Yeah, appreciating the moment rather than
living in the future.
Yeah, it is. It can be hard, but yeah, I think you've got to bring yourself back down a few times.
So we've talked about a lot of different things, a lot of different probably like habits and mechanisms that support doing what you're doing, your improvement, or what we'd like and stuff. So there's always 2 questions that I try and finish the podcast with. The first one is, if there were 3 habits that you use in your everyday life that you could recommend to an everyday person to improve their life, what would they be and why?
Number 1, get up earlier.
It comes up a lot more often than you think.
Does it? Yeah, for the reasons that we mentioned, is you don't need 13 hours sleep. As much as you might believe it, as tired as you are, I think there's a fine balance between sleeping too much, to be honest. Because again, I used to do it. I probably get between 7 and 8 hours a night.
Perfect, isn't it?
But that's because I don't go home and binge watch Netflix. Don't get me wrong, I do watch telly. I'm not a saint.
Yeah.
But yeah, get up early and grab the day by the balls. Or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So that'd be number 1. Number 2, every day get some form of movement in, or some form of exercise. Doesn't have to be, not everyone wants to be a bodybuilder. Not everybody wants to run, but just get out and move. And I think the endorphins that it releases is just,
There's a reason that people were writing about its benefits 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just getting outside and having a walk.
Yeah.
And all these fucking philosophers and stoics and forward thinkers at the time did all the best shit when they were walking about.
Yeah. Just get outside at least once a day.
100%.
Just staying in your house is nothing worse than being locked inside.
No. Cabin fever.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes when, Mrs. go, oh, do you want to go for a walk? I can't be arsed. I've been at work all day.
Yeah.
That's because I've been out already. I've already done the outside bits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say. And number 3, another habit. It's hard.
Always get the third one.
Does it always get everyone?
Always gets
That's because you've asked for 3. If you ask for 4, I'd give you 3 and then got stuck
on
the 4th.
I think 2's too easy.
Yeah. You'll have to come back to me on the 3rd habit.
Well, what I'll do is I'll try and jog your memory with the last question, which is what does help sometimes. If you could include or reintroduce one habit or routine into your life that if you're reintroducing it, you've done it before, or if you're introducing it, you've never done before, what would that one habit or routine be and why?
That's a hard question. I'm trying to think of a habit that I've had and don't use anymore.
Yeah.
That I wish I would use. Not so much a habit, but what I do wish I would have done is younger. When I was younger, worked harder.
Yeah.
If that works.
That's fine.
Because I think when I was, obviously it's easier said than done, because when I was growing up, I didn't think about my future as much. But I had times where I was, when I was younger, I was lazy basically, and I was like, I don't need to, because something will find me.
Yeah.
And I was always of that mindset of, something will pop up eventually, or this will happen. And then I realised the harder you work, the luckier you get, and it's so true. So habit, I worked more. as stupid as that sounds, I wish I'd have made more effort to do the things. So like I always say, I don't regret it. But if I could go back in time, because I've started a YouTube channel now, the first time I ever did it was years and years and years ago with my brother.
Yeah,
probably 10 years ago, and I just wish I'd have stuck to it.
It.
And I've got a lot better at sticking to. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it now. But when I was younger, I was terrible at it
Yeah, if
because
you go back-
I'd switch from
thing to
thing to thing
Yeah.
because I try and find the next best thing to do.
If you could go back and tell 16-year-old you or everything you knew now, life would be a lot easier. I mean,
yeah.
I'd have been in fucking Bitcoin a lot sooner.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's number one.
Yeah. So, third thought of it. Has it helped? Has it jogged any memory?
No.
Don't have to have a third. Some people haven't have a third.
I can't think of a third habit.
That's fine.
Worst guest ever.
No, not at all, mate. I've had a fucking great time talking about it, and it's been really good for pick. You're very open and you show everything that you do anyway, but it's been even nicer to sort of pick away at that and get even deeper into it.
We'll have to do another one.
We will do when you're back.
When I've done the
Don't
rest,
worry,
so.
that was already going to be a question after we're done. But what I'll always like to do before we go as well is just give you the opportunity to let people know where they can find you. So obviously your donation page, which I'll put in the description below. All your socials and your YouTube, I'll put that in below. But if you want to tell people where they are,
it's just my name, but Rye, so RY and then Rigby, on everywhere. So if you search that, then it should come up somewhere.
Consistency,
try and keep
people know where they find you.
just as easy as possible. But if you're into gym and running, or if anyone's any questions, like I'm open. I'll tell you whatever you need to know.
Perfect, Matt.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure.
Cheers, Matt. Is that all right?
Perfect, Matt.
Yeah.
So good.